Hello and welcome back to Wild Wisdom Wellbeing Guest Slots, and with me, Robin Harris of Equine Wild Wellbeing. And today I have a wonderful guest. It's Jane Gilbey of Natural Answer. And Jane, just kind of by way of introduction, I was reading your website earlier, and there's a quote there that I just have to use today. When I read it, it made me, I just had to pause. You know, it's one of those things that was so deep and profound that I just had to kind of take a moment with it and just let it sink in, and some of the layers to kind of make themselves felt, because it was so much more than just the words. So the quote is that you help people to reconnect their soul and heart to the heartbeat and soul of the earth. And that, it really did just kind of take my breath away, and I had to, because it's so profound and it touches on the things that matter to me so deeply. So that was really, I mean, I read that after we'd connected, but then when I read that, I thought, yes, this is so good to have you here with us today. So thank you so much for giving us your time. And could I ask you just to tell us a little bit about who is Jane and what brought you to setting up your business, Natural Answer?
Thank you, Robin. Well, thank you very much. It's a real honour to come and talk with you today. Yeah, that is a profound quote, isn't it? I know. Yeah, it does sort of touch you, and I feel it's something we all really need to try and be doing, you know, in these troubling times. So my name is Jane. I've had animals all my life. Currently I have 2 Arabian horses. Have always been my passion. 2 little ponies and 2 golden retrievers. I've got cats, pet sheep, and I'm very blessed to live on a wonderful farm. We've been here now 14 years. And in my earlier background, I did work for a vet, so I'd always been involved with animals, and prior to that I was a groom, sort of at stables, stable manager. So I've always had quite a connection with animals in one way or another. And I think in a way, what led me to start thinking about setting up a business was I was having lots of issues with my own health, and so I already was beginning to feel a little bit not being helped particularly well in the mainstream. We won't really get into the bottom of the things. So I decided to start looking into more natural alternatives. And I was actually guided to sort of get involved with flower essences. And it was uncanny, because the first time I didn't know what they were, I'd never seen them, I hadn't heard of them. I'd been to London, and it was for fertility treatment. It had failed, it didn't work, and I was coming home feeling quite sad on the train. And the lady had left a magazine on the side, and she'd gone, so I sort of picked it up, and the page fell open, and it said the Bach flower remedies for fertility, of all things. I mean, the way the universe works with coincidences is just astounding. So I started to read the article, and I thought, wow, these flower essences just sound so gentle, so nurturing. They sound wonderful. I must look into this. And so I started to look into it, discovered the Edward Bach Centre in Oxfordshire, and decided to enrol myself on that very first course. So that was my first introduction, really, my first part of my journey into the holistic therapies and the flower essences, which is my main modality. So they then developed a course to be a flower essence practitioner for animals, which I thought was just wonderful. And the vet I was working for at the time was quite ahead of his time. I feel he was very open to alternative and holistic therapies to go alongside the mainstream sort of allopathic medicine, which I think is great. I was so lucky that he had that mindset. So he encouraged me to do that, and I actually was able to then work within the vet's practice, sort of helping the animals that were coming through. So that was amazing. And then I guess my horses have been enormous teachers, and very much led me down a path looking to try and help resolve certain issues that they may have had throughout their lives. So then I went on to learn Equine Touch, which is a very gentle body work, going over the fascia, the skin, and energetically. I did Reiki, so I'm a Reiki master. I've also done some diplomas in sort of animal behaviour to try and sort of bring the whole package together. And more recently, I've just qualified as an equine facilitated learning practitioner. So I think that just brings it all nicely together. So now I can not only help the animals, but I can help people with the help of animals, which is just lovely. So,
and I think that nature and the animals have so much wisdom that we as human beings and it's probably part of our natural evolution and our learning, we've moved away from slightly, we've detached ourselves from what things that we have known, and we've gone into the mechanical Newtonian kind of way of being, but we're coming back. The pendulum is swinging back again. And I think, yeah, when we can take on board that learning from animals, from nature, we learn so much more about ourselves. They say that about just being an animal carer, that it's not just the animal you learn about, you actually learn so much more about yourself.
Absolutely. I mean, I think, when particularly with animals living in the domestic setting in your home, they very much pick up on the dynamic of the family and what's going on with you. So, they will often mirror that in their own well-being and, or their health. So that I do like to work with that combination of people with their animals, with their own animals, not just with mine, but with their own animals, to sort of try and bring insights into what's actually going on with their life. So they might come to me with a problem, say, with the dog or something, and the behaviour issue. And the more we delve into it, we actually realise, and something they'll get an epiphany, and it'll be like, that actually I do that, or that's because of this, and it's really nice to see. So I quite like to work with people in that way as well.
Yeah, and that's very much what I like to do as well. And I worked with a homeopathic vet, well, in terms of he was treating my cat, and he said to me that that's often the way he finds things, that he wants to say to the carers of the cat, actually, you need to take XYZ because the cat's just showing me what's going on for you. But I just wanted to say good afternoon to Tammy. Tammy has joined us. She's a friend of mine and somebody who will quite often join on lives. And she's saying that sometimes natural ways work so much better. They're so much more effective, I think, because they work with our bodies, and our bodies have evolved alongside of these plants that are used for these remedies. So we have receptors for them. We are actually we've grown in parallel, so we're ready to work with each other so much more synergistically than something that's created out of a lab that doesn't then have the other compounds. It's a pure form of it, which might sound good because we like the word pure, don't we? We think pure is clean, it's got to be good, and nature is dirty and messy, but we need the dirt and the mess. It's actually part of what's good for us.
And we need that consciousness as well, because I mean the plants have a consciousness. I mean that's what is captured within a flower essence. It's there is no physical part to that in a little bottle of essences. It is the essence, the life force, the energy, and the soul, if you like, of that particular plant and the gifts it can bring to you. So that you can't manufacture that.
No, you can't. And I know that I've mentioned this before, that people are trying to isolate compounds out of something like hawthorn, which is good for the heart and circulation. But every time they think, we've got it now, oh, it doesn't work. We've got it now, oh, that doesn't work either. It's the whole.
It's the whole, exactly.
We've got away from that holistic. It's holistic in every sense. And I love the concept of a holographic kind of universe, that the part is within the whole and the whole is within the part.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree. I think, I just think with flower essences, you are getting that whole. It is that more energetic part of it, whereas with other medicine, it's more like the physical part, isn't it? As you say, they try to isolate things. And even with herbal medicine, it sometimes is just one part of it. Like the root, or the leaves or the berries. But I think that's not so bad because you are still using the actual physical plant. But when it's somebody's using, the scientist is actually creating in the lab, just isolating bits, it just loses something, doesn't it? It loses that that sort of soul, really.
And I love how that word essence kind of, it's so much more than a word, isn't it? There's so many layers even just to that, so that it is including the energy, it's including the wisdom. It's yeah, and as you said before when you were reading that article, how synchronous that article just fell open there for you. And not only on flower essences, but specifically on the issue that was already on your mind.
Yeah,
isn't the universe amazing? But you were saying how they're so gentle, and
they are. I mean, yeah, so they can be quite profound in their action, or they can be very gentle. I mean, they usually are very gentle. They will harmonise, and they're self-regulating, so they'll only ever go to the depth that you're able to deal with. And they interact very well with any other medicines or herbs or essential oils and things like that. So, yeah, they're very, very versatile, quite safe for animals, for young children. Unlike, say, essential oils, you have to be a bit careful, you know, with around pregnant women and, you know, some animals, cats in particular, yeah. So, yeah, that's what I love about them. I've always been quite a sensitive soul myself, and I can be quite easily upset. My system can be quite easily upset with, even with natural things that you think should be wonderful. Like, I've often had homeopathy or herbal things, and I've ended up with a problem, and it's nearly always essences that will help me sort it out. So for me personally, I mean, everybody's different, but for me personally, they've been my partner in life since my early 20s, since I discovered that, you know, on that train that day, and went on my journey with it. And from doing the batch flower essences practitioner course, I then went on to discover there's like a whole world of them out there. You know, the Australian bush essences. I love the ones from Alaska. They have a very different energy. They are, you know, they're from a very pristine environment that hasn't been particularly sort of spoilt by humans or impacted too much. You know, the whole interior of Alaska is fairly uninhabited by humans. And so you've still got these glaciers and wild expanses of acres and acres and acres. And they actually embody an awful lot of change. Because if you think about the landscape and environment in Alaska, the changes happen very rapidly. You get, you know, they have very short seasons in terms of spring and autumn. There really isn't. It's sort of, it's winter and then it's summer. You know, it's quite a short summer. And the very long nights, and then it's the very long days. You sort of go to the opposite. So they're quite extreme. So they can be quite powerful catalysts to work with. And essences, they do vary. So flowers tend to act as catalysts for change and growth, whereas the gems, for example, gem essences are much more for stability. If you think of a gem, it's made from something of the earth, so it's, you know, the compound of it, it's structure. It is structure. So it helps form an energetic matrix with us that we can harmonise with. So they're and environmental essences, they're made in a slightly different way, because you obviously haven't got a flower or a gem. So it's, you know, it's more ritualistic. So it would be made in a certain space, like at the foot of a glacier, for example, or like that. And dogs there. And so the differences are, say you just gave an energetic, an environmental one, it's bringing that energy of that environment to the healing process. So if you've got an animal or a person that's been sick for some time and their energy is depleted and they're quite weak, they may not be ready to start having the flowers, to start catalysing change and growth and dealing with their issues, which can be like peeling the layers of an onion, as you're well aware, and it can go very deep and be quite challenging. You could end up, you know, sort of on quite a healing, deep journey with that. They might not be ready to do that. So by giving sort of just the environmental essences and perhaps a few crystal essences, you're giving them the energy to help them become to heal, and then when they're ready, then they can start to have their flowers. So I think that's sometimes a mistake people make, is just throw loads of flower essences at someone, and actually you can end up being quite overwhelmed, because all of a sudden you're getting all these things coming up, and, you know, things for you to process and deal with.
Or you're not in a place where they can, you know, you can process it, because sometimes, like you're saying, we need to get to that point of stability and resilience and right, I'm ready. Because otherwise maybe we're too much in stress, and when we're in stress and fight or flight, we can't take in new things, because we're too busy just dealing with the threats that we feel are in our environment right now. So that's why with animals and people, when we want to learn new things, we need to be in rest and repair as far as we can. And we learn so much better if we're having fun, because then we're open to new experiences and to taking in new things. It doesn't feel threatening. So that makes such sense. And the idea as well of what we don't learn when we're in fight or flight or the parasympathetic, we don't learn as well. We might learn some things that aren't too supportive, and we create beliefs that aren't supportive. But the gentleness of the essences, that they can just shift us into that soft rest and repair.
Yeah.
But just by their nature, by being gentle, we feel safer.
Definitely.
It's not too sudden, like you were saying about the Alaskan shifts. And I'm reading a book at the moment. It's the sequel to The Salt Path, if you've come across The Salt Path.
Yes, I have.
So the sequel to that, The Wild Silence. And they go to Iceland, and the local people are saying, oh yes, the winter comes on Sunday. How can you tell? No, here we know the winter's coming on Sunday. And a lot of people obviously have watched Game of Thrones, and the winter is coming.
Yeah.
So if that is too deep, too sudden, to remember that it's fine to take things at your own pace and to work gently, it's probably going to be more effective in the long run.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, if you try to instigate changes too suddenly, it can be quite a shock to the system, can't it?
And can lead to that overwhelm and overload. And a lot of people as well have talked about detoxing. And that detoxing is another thing to be very careful with and gentle with, because you can release toxins that are too much for the body. The body's not ready. It needs to be strong enough to be able to deal with that. Absolutely. So all just things to remember. But going back to the animals, another quote that you have on your website is from Anatole France. I don't know the pronunciation, but until one has loved an animal, part of one's soul remains unawakened. I love that.
Yeah, it's lovely, isn't it? It's so true though, isn't it? I've shared my whole life with animals, and I see them as some of my closest friends. I feel sad for people that haven't got a connection with animals. It must just be really weird and unfulfilling in some ways.
And it's that concept of, you can look into an animal's eyes and see them looking back at you, and you really do feel like you're seeing each other's soul. Yes. It's that kind of depth, that kind of connection.
It is, it really is. I think animals, they have the capability to sort of break down so many barriers, don't they? We can often find it easier to be ourselves and to sort of love very fully with an animal that you're close to, but because they don't have that language barrier. It's all non-verbal language, and they're just, they give such unconditional love, don't they? Especially dogs.
And hopefully, animals don't have the conditioning either. Being social human beings in a society, we've learnt certain norms of behavior depending on which culture that you live in. But I think a lot of the westernized cultures have become, maybe it's because we are distanced from nature largely. So we've lost the things that animals do by instinct. Like if you've had a stressful situation, shake it off. But we don't think we can do that. No. I mean, horses are the ones really, aren't they, for showing that, how they're sort of their energy can be up and they can be stressed, and then they, in their fight and flight mode, and when they're in the flight mode, then just drop again, can't they? Just drop it right back down again to rest and relax, just let it all go. Whereas we tend to hold on to things. If we become really stressed about something, it becomes a really big deal, and if we don't resolve that thing, we carry it with us, and by the time you get into middle to old age, you're carrying around so many burdens that if you're not careful, and then it starts to impact on your health, which I found a bit, quite a lot myself recently. Even though you think you've dealt with things, things still come up. And they still can come back to bite you, can't they? If you haven't really fully dealt with them, if there are layers. But I think every time that another layer comes up, sometimes we beat ourselves up and we think, oh no, not this again. I thought I dealt with this. But to me, it's not. It's another layer.
It's another layer.
And it's
yeah.
not that we've done anything that hasn't been enough or good enough or whatever. It's just now you're ready. This is the point at which your body is saying, yes, I'm here. I'm ready to do this now.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not attacking you. It's not falling apart. It's just saying, yeah, now's the time.
No, I agree.
So you talk about the voice of nature and whether it whispers or it roars.
Yes, well,
that it brings rich treasures.
I think alongside the essences, I've also done the Reiki and then pranic healing, and I also like to work a lot with the elements, really, and just being in nature. I find so much, healing and benefit just from being in nature, especially around trees in particular. And it sometimes nature's very peaceful, sometimes it's loud, isn't it? So yeah, it's just wonderful to have that connection. And I think that's another part of what I'm hoping to do here, is because we've got this lovely farm, just to make a bit of a retreat. So we do the glamping as well and holistic type workshops. So it would always incorporate some meditation and connecting with the animals, going out in nature, walking meditations, connecting with the trees, all that kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, right from a child, I've just loved nature. I was very blessed that my mum used to take me for massive long walks all through woods and nature reserves. And I can remember just loving doing the nature projects, when you had to select leaves and conkers and things like that. So that's always been my passion. And I feel very blessed to have been able to be as connected to nature as I was as a child. Because I think it's... Sorry, go
it's
on.
Brilliant that you've and other people like yourself have had that kind of an upbringing and have always had a connection and felt it, even though maybe you didn't have the words for it when you were younger, or didn't really appreciate in the same way as now quite what that gave you. But now you are able to appreciate it, and the things that meant so much to you when you were growing up and that have had such an impact on your life, and so can create it for people who haven't had those opportunities.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think when I was a child, I was fairly deprived. It was just me and my mum. She was a single mum. We lived in a council flat, just a one-bedroom bedsit for a while. So it was only I'm so grateful for her love of nature, because I wouldn't have necessarily had that introduction to it if it wasn't for her. Because she had to go out of her way, really, to get us out in nature. It wasn't just there for us in our laps. We had we lived in the town and in a built-up area. So, I'm just so grateful that she did introduce me to that and make that a big part of my life. We'd go out for absolutely hours walking, and I can remember still being in the pushchair. I can remember that, but I can't remember what I did 5 minutes ago. But I can remember going to all sorts of lovely places and not wanting to come home from them. And wanted to just go and sort of run and stand in the stream, with my new I remember I was 3 years old, and I ran off and stood in the stream with brand new shoes on. But I just loved to be there and, in touch with it. I was never happier than when I was sort of skipping around in the sunshine or, in the woods and things like that. So, yeah, very lucky. And the need for everybody to experience that and to have that connection is so important, especially in today's times, and especially as we've all had, the lockdowns and everything that's gone on over the last 2 years. It's more important than ever for people to re-establish their connection.
And I think that's one of the gifts, actually, of lockdown. It's been a really challenging and really hard time for many, but at the same time it has brought many back to realizing how important just nature of whatever kind, whether that's your garden, a lot of people have done gardening, or whether that's your local park, or whatever it might be.
I think so. I think it, as you say, there's always positive that comes out of these sort of challenges, and I think a lot more people now are much more focused on wanting to make sure they can continue that connection with nature and not just get dragged back to the old ways.
that is the challenge now going forward, I think, as lockdowns hopefully continue to ease and we come out of the worst of this change. What can we bring in? What do we want to keep from what we've learned through lockdown, whether that's gardening or walking or having time. I heard so many people towards the early days of lockdown saying, I never even realized how busy I was all the time, how tired I was. It was only when you stop, when that stop is enforced upon you, that you kind of realize, look back and think, my goodness, how did I do that? That wasn't sustainable. And yet I did it. And now we're looking at blended working and things to try and hopefully not go back to the unsupportive things that we were doing before.
And I think animals can help people with that, can't they? If they can develop a connection. Or, I mean, you obviously had a lot of people get dogs, puppies during lockdown, and there might be some challenges with that as they do start to go back to work, because those dogs have been used to having the people around all the time. But I think the people will have learned, that lovely companionship during that time, and how amazing that was to have an animal in their lives. So that can hopefully only be a good thing, can't it? Just hope they find a way through any of the problems if they do have to start going back out to work. So maybe that's where I come in. I can help them with the essences and some tips to try and sort of solve that.
So tell us a little bit more about the kind of work that you do. So in what ways and with what sort of issues do you support animals, and which kind of animals do you tend to work with?
Well, I do mainly work with horses and dogs, sometimes cats. I've had a few cats actually. And the sort of problems I get with cats is normally things like they've got more than one cat in the household and they've started to fight. And they maybe got on fine for a long while, and then all of a sudden they're starting to fight. And so then you have to kind of look to what might be causing that. Have there been any major changes or building work, or you've maybe even simply put the litter trays in a different place or the food in a different place and things like that. So that tends to be the main things I have with cats. Dogs, it could be things like separation anxiety. That is usually quite a big thing. I think what else with dogs? Sometimes it's just where they've lacked maternal bonding when they're young, if they've been sort of weaned too early, things like that. You'll often get insecurities, and lack of confidence, anxiety, and all the sorts of behaviours that might come about because of that. So I did start to run some puppy socializing classes, because when I worked at the vets, I used to do the puppy parties. So I thought, well, I'll take it a step further. It's not necessarily a training program, but it's that kind of step between when a puppy's not quite, it's literally just had its first injection and is allowed to sort of go to puppy parties in a controlled environment, but it can't go out meeting other dogs yet. So we do a little indoor thing. And then when they've had their next injection, it's sort of just introducing them at the farm, because I've got chickens and sheep and other animals and horses. Excellent. It's a safe place to sort of let them start seeing the big open worlds, so that you hopefully they only get sort of very positive experiences in a supportive environment, rather than what could go wrong if you sort of suddenly went out and another big dog comes up and frightens them, or they see other animals that they're really scared of and things like that. So we try to make it very controlled, and I do some nice little packs for them to go away with. So we also talk about sort of nutrition and all sorts of things really, and holistic things that could help with various issues for them. So I do like to work with puppies, horses. As I say, I've done the Equine Touch, so I quite like to help with the body balances, and Reiki, that's, I use that on all the animals as well. Crystals, do crystal healing, and maybe do some remote work, like set up some crystal grids, do some distant healing. And I can do the Zoom consultations as well for the flower essences as well. So I could kind of like to integrate things and bring in a bit of a package, and then sort of helping people with the help of animals. As I say, it's more with the horses, sometimes the dogs, but usually with the horses, doing the equine facilitated learning. And that's just, a lot of that is actually very gentle work, where you're just getting very grounded. So you're learning about your breathing, doing a body scan to see where you're holding tension. And then maybe once you're nice, you can control your own energy. and how you approach the horse, then you start to sort of interact with the horse, or whichever one wants to come over and interact with you, do some advance and retreat to see where, so you can work on issues like boundaries in your life, where so the horse will mirror that, you know, where the boundaries are. What else? Well, things with anxieties, all kinds of stress-related issues, sadness, bereavement, depression. So, yeah, and then I normally try to combine that with essences as well. So we normally have a chat first, and we sort of get a bit of a history of an idea of what's going on with the client. And then we decide, you know, we might go for a walking meditation and then just sort of stand outside the horse's paddock and just sort of do a bit of tuning in. And so it varies really. It's sort of just depending on what people want and need and how best I can support them.
And it's also individual, isn't it? Because
yeah.
I mean, I was on a podcast this morning and I was asked, you know, what's the typical thing? It's just so individual to each animal, each person, and each then if you're working with the animal and their person, it's the combination as well. So you've nearly got three things, if not more, in the room.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I do like doing that if it's sort of working with people with their animals, and because we have a holiday let here, and we have a dog friendly, so we often have people come with their dogs. And I had a lovely lady that was having some personal challenges, and she actually it wasn't really about her to start with, it was about the dog. Could we have a consult for the dog? So sort of sitting and chatting, and I said, well, we'll just take some history first and all that. And the dog, she's one of the troubles I'm having with him, he just keeps ignoring me. And he won't come back when I call him. And look, he's doing it now. And she's calling him and he was flatly ignoring her. And I just said, have you ever felt ignored in your life? Or when have you ever felt ignored in your life? And she burst out crying because she said, oh my God, she just had this epiphany. She said all the time. And it was heartbreaking. It was sort of through all her working career and even in her relationship, her husband. It was just heartbreaking. And it was the dog was, and the minute she started to cry, the dog came straight to her. And for comfort, and just stayed with her then, and it was just so lovely. You know, they're magical, aren't they? They can just cause healing on such deep levels.
And they're amazing what they hold for us and what they reveal for us.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the gift.
Yeah.
And yeah, of course, having an animal in your life brings challenges. Tammy's just saying it's amazing the empathy that animals have. And that's so true. They really, they're so much better at reading us than we are reading them. They're so good, and particularly dogs, because they've been living alongside of humans for so long. They're so good at reading our facial expression. Although theirs are going to be different, they can still get out. And like Inca here, she just knows everything. I think she's telepathic because she'll be off upstairs and I'm getting ready to go up to the horses, and next thing she's there. Or I'm up with the horses, she's off in another field, and I think, where's she got to? And she appears. You know, I think, but you can't even see me, so you must be telepathic. But there'd be something that she's picking up on.
Yeah, they do, don't they? I mean, they're just the non-verbal communication. They're masters at, and and I think that, you know, it is telepathic, isn't it? The way they know what you're doing at any given time, and know what time you're coming home. You know your routines and patterns, and they read our emotions, don't they? So
they do.
But unfortunately, they can be like sponges for it. So we have to be mindful of that, don't we? If they start to become unwell or stressed, it can sometimes be because they're picking it up from us.
And one of the tips that I tend to give people, if they're having issues with an anxious, or, you know, any, like the cats you were saying, when they just suddenly seem to change behavior.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, is there anything has changed for you? Are you under any stress at the moment?
Yeah.
And the best thing that one of the best things we can do for animals is to take care of ourselves.
Yeah. I think that's one of the lessons they're trying to sort of show us, really, self-care. And that's something that's been very lacking for a lot of people, isn't it? Because they're on that busy treadmill all the time, that we just forget to take care of ourselves. You know, we're taking care of everyone else and rushing around all the time. So,
and it's such an easy thing to routine and habit to fall into.
Yeah, it's And I don't know about you, but it seems that time's almost speeded up lately. It seems to just fly. I can't believe where the year's gone, or even the last 2 years.
And certainly lockdown had that funny kind of concertina thing. It's almost like a wormhole. It seemed to take a long time, but when you look back over it, it seems like it hardly even happened. It was, the year just disappeared. Everybody's saying that year. Where did it go? What happened to that year? And now that we're coming out of the lockdown and the restrictions, everything's trying to catch up. So it's frantic, where we went from the busy to stop to frantic.
And I think people are finding that they're thinking, I don't actually want that anymore. You may have coped with it at the time because you're on that treadmill, you don't know any different. But when you actually get off it for a little while and then you're thrust back on it, you suddenly realise, actually, I don't want that now. I just want a more simplistic life. And again, I think that's something animals try to show us, don't they? Because they do live in a simplistic way. They're just in the present moment, aren't they?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's to be grounded, to be in the moment, so that we're really responding to the moment and not living in the past or worrying about the future. And Tammy's just put up a few comments now, but the latest one, that COVID has made us all slow down a lot. And I think absolutely it did. But the challenge now is to keep that sense of at least some balance between busyness and the self-care and the support and the taking time to rest or get out into nature or those sorts of things.
No, I wholeheartedly agree. Yeah, that's the challenge, isn't it, now?
It is the challenge, yeah. Tammy's saying that Christmas is just around the corner because the year's going so quickly.
Absolutely.
So you talk as well on your website about building better awareness of what animals need and of how to build stronger relationships and connections with them. Can you talk a little bit more about what they need that maybe we're not so aware of?
Yeah, I think thinking more species specific, so sort of the 5 freedoms, Brambles' 5 freedoms, but more, it's more the individual species. So especially in the domestic setting and with the horses, you can very easily forget what would they be doing if they weren't in this domestic setting. What are their needs? So it's always, I think, good to reflect on that at times, and especially a lot of new animal owners that have never had a pet before, especially those that may have just got their first dog in lockdown. It's really important, I think, because they think they're just an extension of themselves, and they almost humanise them sort of too much at times. And it's okay, because the animals love and being with us, don't they? The dogs in particular, they want to share their lives with us. But if you forget the needs, of the species-specific things, I think you can end up then starting to have problems, and their health's and their well-being is going to suffer. So, and even with things with certain training methods, sometimes things can become, because us being humans, we do get very focused and intense. We're like tunnel visioned. It's got to be this way, or we find a particular, training style that we really like and think, yes, it's that way and no way other way. And you can become quite rigid thinking and almost overlook the fact that maybe the animal's not enjoying it as much as you hoped, and things like that. And in nutrition as well. I mean, it's all in this fast-paced life, the way we live, everything's for convenience, isn't it, and speed. So we get all for the dogs and cats, it's always all the dry foods, and there's that. I know they say they're meant to be balanced, and some of them probably aren't too bad, but if that's all your animal's having day in, day out, I can't believe it's that healthy, really. I think they need more variety, and I personally quite prefer raw or even just a mixture. I mean, I've got very big dogs, so it's incredibly expensive to have them fully on raw, but so they do have some dry. But it's just challenging owners, I think, to kind of really look into things and research to make the best choices for their animal. That's the main thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And not forget that they are an animal. They are a dog, or they are a cat, or they are a horse, and they need to have the time to be. They can't just be in our lives doing our stuff all the time. They do need to, and dogs in particular, they do need to rest. Sometimes I know sometimes they're resting too much because the owner goes out to work all day, and they're not getting the stimulus and interaction with other dogs or anything. But other times I have to be careful myself because I'm on a farm. My dogs follow me everywhere. They want to be with me every waking moment. And then I sometimes think, God, they're just not getting enough rest. And I actually think, I really want to go out and meet a friend today so that I can leave them home and they'll relax, because they just, you can't even get up to, you go out the room and they've both got up and followed you, so it's just bringing awareness really for people to sort of really look at the particular species and what their needs are.
And I think, yes, absolutely, we need to look at the species and what they would be doing were they living in the wild, because they aren't that different. Even dogs, although they are domesticated and have been, they're one of the longest domesticated animals that we interact with. But really, in the whole of evolution, it's the blink of an eye. So they still, like in terms of their diet and in terms of, well, they need to sniff and they need to run around and they need to, all of these things that they still need to do that their wild cousins would do. And that they are pack animals, which is one of the reasons that they do interact with us so well, because they like to be part of that unit. But just to remember that they have their own needs as well. And the species needs, but also the individual needs, because each dog's going to be different.
Exactly,
and each breed of dog will have characteristics, but individuals within that. So it's just remembering and balancing all of those, I think, as well.
Yeah, and a thing I remember when on my bachelor animal course was about, we were talking about birds, and the tutor was sort of talking about sort of a lot of tropical birds, that parrots and things like that, and certain birds will take on some birds tend to fly sort of more vertically, quite upright, they just go up, whereas others need to go along, sort of a very, so it's all things like that, so that how then their living space is designed to enable them to do that. It's a bit like chickens, needing to be able to roost, and the way that they like to sort of go on a perch rather than just on the ground, and also like high, cats particularly love to be up high, don't they, to feel safe. They will always, if something chases them, they'll go up if they can. So it's being aware of all those things, because you can, in your own living space, there might be things you can do to actually facilitate that, especially if you've got multiple animals in your home that have all got to cohabit. Finding ways to sort of get around that.
I've never thought about that with birds.
Yeah.
I don't know if you just heard the buzzard that's flying around outside, but there are birds like that soar, so they need a high point to take off from.
The height, don't they? Yeah.
Like the famous example of the condors that we had on the television, that you could just watch them just flying, or like an albatross that doesn't land for months on end, just is out at sea.
Yeah.
They're very different ways of looking at and constructing the world.
Yeah.
Which is part for me of the fascination, because you sort of think, wow, what must that be like? Just to see the world from that perspective.
I know, and that's something I like to actually do with embodiment things. Part of my EFL training, was, and I used to do some of that before anyway, the meditations, try and embody what it might be like to be a particular animal. And, birds is great, isn't it? To try and see from a higher perspective and picture yourself sort of in, up there looking down on stuff. So that's quite a nice exercise to do as well. Try to embody what that animal, if you can imagine being that animal, if it's a heavy animal, for example. I remember having to do, it was quite a challenge actually. This is something I was doing on an animal communication course. We had to embody being, first of all, a lioness, and then we had to be a rhinoceros, and you really had to sort of feel the different structures in your own body and take that on. I can even remember doing one on the bush flower essences. Ian White, who teaches that, who's the founder of Australian Bush Essences, we took one of his environmental type essences, and it was the earth, and you had to be, imagine you were a stone. And I can just remember having a really weird, heavy feeling of sinking, thinking, oh my God, I can't move.
I'm solid.
I'm solid. And it really did work as an embodiment. It was absolutely amazing.
I've done a similar one.
Yeah? Oh, have you?
Well, it was about being a dog, because we were working, it was an animal communication course as well. We were working with the dog, and what's it like to have a tail? What's it like to have fur? These kind of things.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it, to do these exercises actually. Yeah, we did another one with one of the Australian bush essences where we had to take the essence and then just sort of see what evolved, and that was developed. It was a Davic essence, so it just, you ended up with really heightened sense of hearing, smell, sight. It was like you felt like you could almost hear the ants crawling in the grass. It was amazing. I've never experienced anything quite like that since. It was fantastic. So yeah, and I guess if you can do little things like get people to do, sort of think, or what do you think you'd feel like if you were a horse or you were a dog, you know, try and picture that and embody that. It again helps them bring that awareness, doesn't it, and think about the animal's needs.
Absolutely. And I did training with Elizabeth Whiter of the Healing Animals Organisation, and I think on one of my first days there, we were at a sanctuary that had lots of different animals, and there was a tortoise. So she said, right, you work with the tortoise, and then she said, I want you to tell me what that tortoise energy feels like. I've only just started, I don't know any of this stuff, I'm going to get it wrong. You know, my inner critic was coming out. But I went over, and I'd never met a tortoise before either. So I went over and I kind of sat down with this tortoise, and it responded. It came over to me and put its head over to my hand and all of this kind of stuff. And I, like you said about the stone, I just got this really deep, grounded connection with the earth, kind of root chakra feeling. And kind of as well, my inner critic was going, yeah, right, you're making it up. But that's, you know, that's the kind of idea, isn't it? It's just tuning in and just getting, what do you sense from this creature in front of you, this individual, well, creature, animal, tree, whatever.
Yeah.
And trees, they've now discovered, have a heartbeat. So, and they respond to touch.
Yeah.
So all of these things that,
yeah,
that we've kind of just thought were way out there, we're now finding is actually very real.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's an exciting world out there, isn't it? Actually, you know, for lots of other people that have never experienced any of that, to start to connect with that, is just so wonderful, isn't it? That's what my hope is. You know, I think with the whole sort of setup I've got here, it's what I've been trying to work towards for many years, several decades actually. You know, it was a vision I had probably when I was in my 30s, and it took us nearly 10 years to find the premises. And ever since then, I've been using positive thoughts and you know, trying to attract to us what it is we wanting to do here, and gradually we've been getting there, and it's wonderful. You know, I've been having some lovely guest speakers come and teach people about different things that they do, or different animal type courses and things, different guest speakers. So, and then just starting to do my own things as well. So yeah, it's exciting.
So where are you, if anybody's looking for all of that kind of thing? And you mentioned you're doing glamping, setting that up as well.
Yeah.
So if people want to come but they're a long way away, they can stay as well.
Yes, that is a possibility. I mean, what I'm hoping to do for next summer is start to actually put together some sort of exclusive, fairly small group sort of retreat type workshops. So maybe 2 or 3 night stays, which would combine our glamping or our holiday let. So we're based in Essex, North Essex, just on the sort of North Essex-Suffolk border. Fairly accessible, only about an hour from London. So yeah, quite easy access really for this part of the country. I'm set in sort of 20 acres, and it's all mainly paddock land with the horses. We've done an awful lot of planting. We've planted over 1,000 trees in conjunction with the Woodland Trust.
Wow.
Yeah, we did that in 2017. It was part of a World War I memorial sort of thing, woodlands that we've created. So you planted over 1,000 trees. That was quite a lot of work. And they're just starting to really look something now. You know, they've come out of their little plastic containers, and they're actually some of them are quite a reasonable height now. Actually, it's actually starting to look like wood.
Really quickly.
Yeah. Some of them are quite fast growing, and even this year, actually, we planted another load of hedging interspersed with some rowan trees, which is really nice. So It's a lot of work, but yeah, we've got my husband builds shepherd huts. He's built our first one. So we've got a shepherd's hut, a lovely bell tent, and one of a self-catering holiday letting out in one of our barns, which is the dog-friendly one. So yeah, I've got those three things, and I've got a little barn which I use as a classroom space for the workshops and things. That's really nice, and of course loads of outdoor space and all the animals, surrounded by the animals. So it's a really nice setting. Yeah, so I'm hoping to do more of these sort of workshops and things and training and stuff next year, definitely.
So if people wanted to follow you to find out more about what you do, about the workshops and retreats that you're going to be offering, where would they find you?
Well, I've got 2 websites, but the most recent one is called Oaksbrook, so it's www.oaksbrook.co.uk. That has got a whole, it's almost 3 websites in one, and it's got a whole section on Natural Answer as well. So there's a lot about me and the animal work in that. And then I've obviously got my own dedicated website, which I'm going to be soon updating a bit, because I've done some more things since that was first made. And that is the Natural Answer one. So that's just www.naturalanswer.co.uk. The same names are the Facebook pages, and I'm also on Instagram with both. I think for Oaksbrook, it's called Oaksbrook Retreat on the Facebook page, and same on Instagram, or just Natural Answer is on both as well. So you can find me there. Yeah.
Brilliant. So thank you so much for joining me today, Jane, and for sharing all of this. It's just such a lovely way to spend some time just listening to this uplifting and talking about connection in nature. It always just makes me feel so much better.
Well, thank you very much, Robin. It's been an absolute pleasure. It really has. Yeah, fantastic.
So thank you very much to everyone who's tuned in, and to anybody who's watching on the replay. Do stick in a hashtag replay below here and let us know that you've watched. And if you have any comments or questions, just stick them in there as well. And I'm sure that myself or Jane can get back to you on those. And then just to wish you all a very happy weekend. And I'll be back next week with another guest. So just keep your eyes peeled in the group to see who that's going to be. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.